These voices tell a story about why people have decided to cut off their Trump-voting MAGA loved ones. This is a compilation of videos we created on this channel this year from people in the USA that refuse to deal with loved ones that support Donald Trump and MAGA.
But, like, I love my parents so much, and, like, it just sucks. Because maybe this is always who they were. I just didn't see it. Maybe it's just gotten so much worse. But it's like I'm grieving people that are alive.
Across the country, families are breaking apart as politics reaches deeper into their personal lives. Today, you'll hear real stories from people explaining why they've chosen to distance themselves from their Trump-voting, MAGA-aligned parents. Listen closely. These voices reveal the emotional weight behind a growing divide.
You lied to us. You taught us about charity and helping those in need, that we should do what's right, even when it's hard, even when no one's looking. You used to stop your car to give money to a homeless person or to pick up a piece of litter on the side of the road. Now we know that was about blame, not benevolence. You always thought you were better than those people, that they were the problem and you the solution.
My brother was in town visiting me recently, and we have MAGA parents that we haven't spoken to in 8 years because, again, they're MAGA parents. My brother seems to think that's like, oh, we could agree to disagree. Oh, we can move past it. Oh, we can meet them where they're at. I'm not like that. I don't feel that way. But I do have a relationship with him, and I do love him, and he is not MAGA. So for his own benefit, I went and sat in support while we had this, like, weird dinner with my parents, and I was very shocked and also reassured to find that 8 years later, zero personal growth has taken place. I mean, we're talking like, this is almost a decade, okay? And everything that happened economically and everything that happened politically and even just like what we may have gone through in 8 years as individuals, they are the same people.
I'm so pissed right now. I am fucking shaking. The time has come, y'all. The time has come where I am cutting off my MAGA parents because I can't do this anymore. After years of trying to avoid the politics conversation with them because I know they are MAGA. And that was the only way we could have a relationship, is if we did not talk about it. Well, I'm done. I'm done. Even if my mom is ill, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. She had the fucking nerve on the phone with me. We were arguing about ICE and how they're violently tearing families apart, detaining and deporting people without due process. And she said, I don't give an F about brown people. And then, I don't give an F about slur. Slur. And I said to her, I said, this is literally what the Nazis did. The way you're talking, this is what the Nazis did. And she had the fucking gall to say to me, well, your dad is German. And she said, and you are too. And I said, but my kids are going to grow up with empathy. And I hung up on her. And I'm about to block her because that's it. That's it.
My parents did vote in their best interest, and I almost think that's worse. Like, I feel like if they were just really uneducated and didn't understand the impact, maybe it would be like a little less shitty. But they're very aware, right? Like my family is very wealthy, or my parents are very wealthy. And so they did vote in their best interest. They prioritized money over people. And that is really hard for me. And also to the point where, like, they are so pro Second Amendment that I feel like even if it was my school that got, or my husband's, I don't think that would change their mind on legislation at all.
My mother is a MAGA boomer. About 2 years ago, I was arguing with her about January 6th and how terrible it was. I brought up how those people built gallows on the sidewalk to unalive Mike Pence. She looks me in my face and says, "Where'd you see that?" And I was like, on every legacy news media outlet, Mom. Like, it happened. She 100% honestly told me she had never seen that. So I pulled out my phone and I just Googled it. And of course, a gajillion photos of the gallows show up. She had honestly never seen it. Then I remembered my parents haven't had cable for years. They grew up in fundamentalist Christianity from the time they were teenagers, and they raised me in the same. Got rid of cable a long time ago. You don't have satellite TV. Our only source of media is online. We all know these older MAGA folks are only consuming media from right-wing authoritarian content creators, not from legacy outlets that actually still have a big enough reach where they must maintain some level of journalistic integrity. She was 100% telling me the truth, that she had no idea that they built gallows to get rid of Mike Pence on January 6th because he certified the election results of 2020.
As a queer liberal adult child of a MAGA family, I need to remind y'all that there are millions of kids trapped in their small, conservative, rural towns that belong to MAGA families, that have MAGA parents, that are not MAGA, that have been marginalized, ignored, and harassed by the people that they love most their entire lives, including their teachers, including their friends, including their pastors, including their family members. Nothing about the way that those people voted says that that child deserves to be harassed or deserves to suffer. That child also does not deserve to be labeled as a MAGA because they have MAGA parents.
If I would have said to my mother when I was a child that I thought that everybody from a different country was a bad person and deserved to be deported, she would have smacked the shit out of me. If I would have come to her as a teenager and said that I was thinking about dating somebody who's on tape talking about grabbing by the pussy and hanging out with PDF files, she would have smacked shit out of me. If ever in my life she heard me mocking a disabled person, considering she has a disabled child, I have a disabled sister, she would have smacked the absolute shit out of me. Now, friends, guess who voted for whom in these last couple elections? Because I'm sitting here trying to understand where that disconnect came in. Because what I am out here doing is fighting for the values that were instilled in me by somebody who no longer has them. Not only no longer has them, while I am out here fully ready and willing to die for these rights and values. She would unalive me, her daughter, because she is now against these things so much.
So there was a violent ICE arrest made in my hometown, and I don't want to completely dox myself here, but it was it went viral, and it was heartbreaking. And the actual arrest happened on the road that I used to live on, about 10 minutes from my house on a country highway. And I sent this to my mom because my parents are triple Trumpers, and throughout this administration, I've tried to send things that are very unbiased, things that seem extremely black and white. So I sent this video to her and I said, "Hey, did you see that this happened?" And her response was, "Oh my gosh, that is horrific. We need to talk to immigration lawyers," named off a couple of people that we know. And in the text she said, "People need to be protesting all across this country. We need peaceful protests." I said, "Great, Mom. Actually, there's this huge protest that's happened multiple times. It's called No Kings." And she says, "Oh, well, I've heard about them, and it's full of BS." I said, "Oh, how so?" She said, "Well, Kamala Harris was not duly elected as the Democratic nominee last year. So, and Trump was duly elected. So, which smacks more of monarchy?" And my response was, "Oh, well, you're not part of the Democratic Party, so why do you care?" And she says, "Well, corruption in any form is just so dangerous." So, "Well, Mom, got some bad news for you about the Trump administration." And she just kind of brushes me off by saying that, well, politics in general, it's about the ideas. Politics is about the ideas. There's always going to be corruption in politics. And it just kind of stunned me because, I've sent her different things through the year, and nothing will shift her. Nothing will shift her from supporting the current administration.
My mom has always claimed to be apolitical, even though socially she's probably even more bigoted than my dad. My mom didn't need to be indoctrinated by Fox News to become a racist, bigoted, misogynistic pick-me. She just hides it really well, which is why she is more damaging to me than my dad. And this has a huge overlap with the conversation about emotionally immature parents and that sort of thing, because a lot of people will talk about having like overtly abusive, angry, whatever parents. Like my dad definitely falls into that category, not physically, but definitely emotionally, verbally abusive, for sure, 100%. But the way my mom abuses her kids is by manipulating them. It's by taking on behaviors that make it look like she's a loving parent. But if you do what she perceives as a slight, she will flip out. The night before the inauguration, I told my dad I cannot associate with fascist sympathizers and apologists. And I meant that. I 100% meant that. Like, that's actually, the fact that you cannot see that this is what it is actually makes this decision very easy for me, because you are so far gone that I don't have to question whether not ever talking to you again is the right decision. Sidebar, when I said that I can't associate, he said, great, now you made your mother cry, good job. So just so you know what we're dealing with here. 3 days later, like nothing ever happened, my mom texted our group chat with me, my fiance, my dad, my mom, and my brother, and was like, hey, we're gonna be in town for whatever doctor appointment. Do you want to all get lunch? And all I said was, I do not associate with fascist sympathizers.
From years of tension to sudden breaking points, many describe how political conflict has seeped into everyday conversations and family traditions. Their experiences reveal pain, confusion, and the difficult choices people are facing inside their own homes.
Mom, who do you blame for the shutdown?
The Democrats.
Why is that?
They wanted to include, it was an ungodly amount. I don't even know what the amount was, $1 billion for aid, healthcare to illegals.
That's not true.
Now, if you don't think we're paying for illegal healthcare right now.
What you've said is not true.
Okay, if you don't think yes, it is. If you don't think we're paying for healthcare to illegals for illegal people right now, then you are crazy. If an illegal right here on my street would walk across and accidentally get hit by a car, the ambulance would be called and they would be taken to the hospital. They would be cared for. They would be cared for. Who pays for that? The American people.
Who pays for it if it's somebody who's uninsured but a U.S. citizen? The American people.
It's been about a week since my ailing mother put her hands on me and slapped me across the face. And I took my child and most of our possessions, everything that would fit in my car, anyways, and left in the middle of the night. Because there's one thing for certain, two things for sure. You absolutely have me fucked all the way up if you think I'm going to still have my child in your life and you're going to put your hands on me in front of him. And it's funny because my mom pulled the guilt trip on the way out while I'm taking all of my things and said, am I allowed to say goodbye to him? Am I allowed? Sure, you're allowed. You're never going to see him again, but you're allowed. About a week ago, my mom started screaming and yelling because of a sarcastic remark that I made, because apparently you're not allowed to do that ever. She can say and do whatever she wants. She can make abusive comments as much as she wants. She can threaten to take my child away from me with baseless accusations. And I just have to sit there and take it. Absolutely fucking insanity. Anyways, my mom started screaming and yelling. My dad started screaming and yelling. My younger brother, who has never moved out of my parents' house, started screaming and yelling. And my mom slapped me across the face. She slapped me across the face, something I never thought would happen, with my kid standing directly behind me. And so I took all my things, put them in my car at 9:30 at night, and I packed my kid in the car, put him in his little seat, and I said bye. And my mom said, when am I babysitting next? And I said, never.
Like, another hard thing is my mom is very pro MAGA, and she's on disability, and she voted for Trump twice, despite the fact that it's harming her daughter, and she doesn't care. And that was hard. That was a hard realization. And so I haven't spoken with her in about a year now.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me. You're not going to pay property taxes. You're not going to pay income taxes. You're going to have a lot more money in your pocket. I can't remember all of the rest of the details, but it's going to be amazing.
My MAGA mom just left my house a week ago after being here for 3.5 weeks. 2 of those weeks I was at home 24 hours a day with her, and it was just fucking hard. And it's getting harder. It's getting harder. Like, I remember joining Reddit in 2020 for the first time ever so that I could specifically join a subreddit called QAnon Casualties. And we made it through COVID, which I really was, wasn't sure she was going to make it through COVID at all because has COPD. She's not a well woman. And, she was fighting the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates. And she was all ivermectin, HCQing it up. But so I was fearful she was even going to make it actually through COVID, but she did, because the one thing she has going for her is that she is virtually isolated in a rural area where she lives. But with Trump 2.0, it is just getting harder. And I want to avoid politics. I try so hard to avoid politics with her, but within her space, she's as well informed as I am within our space. If you can call it informed, I mean, she's well informed for what is being printed on the Daily Caller and being talked about in Fox News and Newsmax and all the fucking derivative offshoots that came from Rush Limbaugh turned Fox News turned, all the bullshit. So she's well informed on that, but it's just like it's rotting her brain, and she doesn't recognize that, obviously, at all. And as we descend into some dystopian hellscape in this country, and I feel like it's not really even safe to stay in this country, it's harder to deal with her, but Hunter Biden's laptop bullshit. It's more difficult to hear about a $40-50 million job that he had with Burisma and give a fuck. It's hard to deal with the $5 million for the big guy in China as we watch $400 million planes be received from Qatar, and this cryptocurrency, I mean, just open raw corruption, like right in our face, and all of the destruction that he's doing, things that feel irreparable. I'm still hopeful that we can claw back from the edge of insanity, but it's just getting harder with her. And I don't want to talk about politics. I try to avoid politics with her, but it's so difficult when I can't talk to my own mom about my internal mental, emotional state, the things that are stressing me out. And then also things come out of her mouth that offend me. It's so difficult.
I was over at my parents' house the other day. I was helping my mom set up her Googles and smart TVs and things because she got new Wi-Fi and she didn't know how to update it. And I don't mind helping. She's my mom. She'll be 69 this year. And she's still significantly younger than the people that are in Congress making decisions about AI data centers, and she doesn't know how to update her Google. So that's a terrifying thought. But anyways, I had to go to her pictures to see her old Google password or whatever to update the new Wi-Fi. And the screenshots, it was just one Facebook misinformation meme after another Facebook misinformation meme. And it wasn't like I was trying to even find things to upset me. It's just there. And I even got my hopes up for a second because she had screenshotted like an entire article from our local paper about SNAP benefits being cut, only to the very next one being, if you're upset about your SNAP being cut, you can blame Democrats for wanting to give health care to illegal aliens. And I just started to cry. And like, you have to understand, these people raised me. They would give anyone anything. I've seen it. The generosity to the poor and the dissonance that's required to align yourself with this administration. There is no other word but cult. There really isn't. There's no statistic I can send them, no article I can send them. There's nothing I can tell them. They have an answer. And it's so funny to me. I held it back and I was like, you know what? Every fight I've ever had with them has ended poorly. I'm never gonna change their mind on anything. They have decades and decades of white Christian nationalists feeding them theology and decades of Fox News feeding them propaganda. They're goners. But they're my parents. And it's hard. But like, I love my parents so much. And like, it just sucks. Because maybe this is always who they were. I just didn't see it. Maybe it's just gotten so much worse. But it's like I'm grieving people that are alive. And people make jokes like, just gotta cut out your MAGA family. It's not that simple. And maybe it is for some people, but I'm so codependent with my parents, and I just want so desperately there to be one scripture verse or one video or one thing that'll just like flip a switch. Let them see that they're not living like the Christ that they raised me to love. They're hurting real people with their beliefs. They're hurting me. It just sucks, bro. It just sucks.
The stories shared today remind us that political division isn't just happening online. It's unfolding at dinner tables, during holidays, and within lifelong relationships. These voices reveal how deeply people are affected when their values collide with those closest to them. Understanding these experiences helps us see the emotional complexity behind decisions that may seem extreme from the outside. If this video gave you insight into what families across America are facing, please like, comment, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going. And click the video on your screen to continue exploring more stories shaping our country today.
You are a danger to me and my family because your vote wasn't just political. It was personal. It told me exactly where you stand in your priorities. It is hard not to think that if you were alive during the Holocaust, you would have turned in Anne Frank, and that you would do the same today.
Across America, political divisions are no longer abstract, they're personal. In this video, you'll hear first-hand stories from people explaining why they made the painful decision to cut ties with Trump-voting, MAGA-aligned family members. Listen closely. These voices reveal how deeply politics is reshaping family bonds.
It hurts me so much because of the personal relationship I now have where my husband is out there fighting this man. And to me, them voting for Trump is them not voting for my husband and me and our family. And I unfortunately have kind of lost relationships with people in my family because of it. This is not just Republican versus Democrat for me anymore. Mm-hmm. It is, to me, it's family values. And it's really hard for me because I grew up believing in these Christian ideals of taking care of the sick and taking care of the poor. And I don't see that happening with this Republican Party.
I am trying to make a video talking about my brother and just working through how difficult this is when you have a MAGA family member. And when you have a MAGA family member who you used to have a really nice relationship with, and honestly, I did the wrong thing, right thing. We avoided talking about politics. I knew where he stood. We avoided it for many, many years. I really never thought this man would ever see the Oval Office again, so even though I knew my brother would vote for it and that was his values, I didn't think he'd get in. And he did. And I can't have anything to do with my brother as a result. And it's really, when I come on here and I'm like, hey, MAGA, that's who I'm really talking to.
Good morning. I took yesterday to be angry and miserable, and I also took yesterday to make the decision to block my father, who will still end up seeing this. So, hi, Dad. And yes, I did block him because of who he voted for, because he knows that I am trans, and he knows that I have had 2 abortions, and he still voted for Project 2025, which to me is reprehensible. I have my husband who loves and supports me to the ends of the earth. I have my friends who love and support me to the ends of the earth. And I have other family members who love and support me to the ends of the earth. And I genuinely do not need anyone else.
So last night, I told my mom and dad that because they voted for someone who wants me dead, that they no longer have the privilege of having their daughter and their granddaughters in their life. And I told them, never contact me again. I'm never calling you. I want nothing to do with you. And take me out of the will. I have a younger brother who is also a MAGA. I said, when you guys pass away, give him the entire house. I don't want to inherit your house. I don't want anything from you. I don't want to hear from you ever again, because I'm no longer safe being in a relationship with you, because I'm queer, I'm autistic, I'm like half disabled. I have Lyme disease and POTS and a bunch of other shit. And I'm bisexual. I have 2 daughters, and my husband's also bisexual. It's like, I'm no longer safe with people like you. You'd be the first ones to turn me into the Schnazis.
I went no contact with my parents 2 weeks before the election because I found out that they voted for Trump for a 3rd time. They came by the other day because they wanted to see me, and I told them I didn't want to see them. So they left a card in the door, and it's some God's love bullshit card, and I thought maybe they'd write something of substance. And they wrote, "And you can keep pushing us away, but we will always be your mom and dad, and we will love you until we die. Love, Mom and Dad." Is that supposed to make me feel better? I don't care, guys. I just want you to say that you're Nazis now.
And put in cages. God cares about men and women being swished away from their homes with no court order.
Let me ask you a question.
God was an immigrant.
Yeah. No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was. God was an immigrant.
Do you guys watch that podcast of that son and daughter, and they talk to their parents? I think it's called The Necessary Conversation. There's clips on TikTok about it all the time, but it's a whole podcast. I just saw one of the more recent episodes, and the son is asking the dad, what if Trump were to send in military to where I lived, and told them to just go ahead and pew pew anybody that they saw, and I might have just been in the situation where they were and got hurt. Would that be okay? And the dad actually says,
what if Donald Trump says, I want you to carpet bomb Oklahoma City, kill everyone? You think the Air Force should carry that out?
Yes. There might be a reason. We don't know.
This is insane.
You cannot be this stupid. Jesus Christ.
Oh, my. This podcast was going well until that.
You just said it's cool. We levels Oklahoma. You're like, yeah, fuck it. There must be a reason. Like, you literally can't be that dumb.
You know what the problem is? Mom and I don't believe he'll ever blow up Oklahoma because we're on his side and so's the whole state.
No, it's because you're in a cult.
and even the mom is saying, yeah, I mean, there would have been a reason for it if he sent them there. So, I mean.
So, my family voted for Trump. I have to send them. And that's that.
So my Trump supporter dad unfriended me on Facebook because I told him how his vote hurt me. If he wants to be my friend again, he's going to have to ask, and I can't say that I'm going to tell him yes. I still hope they don't come after his Social Security and all that stuff, but I've warned him.
I'm no longer talking to my parents until they no longer support MAGA. Here's what I would tell you, which I have learned in the last 6 months of doing this. First thing is your family's probably worse than you think. A lot of us are really desensitized to the idea of what's normal. I thought my parents weren't that bad. I thought they were just the average boomer, which maybe they are, which is bad. You have a little bit of a foggy goggle situation when you're assessing your own family. Second thing is the hole they will leave is not as big as you think it is, because they are probably worse than you think, and because you don't know what you've missed.
I've tried to make this several times. I'm trying to explain the feelings I have. I feel like the family members, I've always loved family and thought it went both ways. I thought the love of family would override anything, right? And I still thought that. And now I'm thinking, if it came down to it and Trump asked somebody to turn, if he just came out and said, okay, I want you to turn in family members that don't like me or say stuff against me. Do you know, I think some family members would. I think their brainwashed Trumpism would override the love of family. It would be brother against brother, and I think they would turn on me. If it got down to that, I'm talking a scenario here, but that's sad. That's a sad reality. But I believe that if it came down to it, and it was Trump over me, to family members that I would step in front of a bus for, I think they'd turn me into him. I think they would want to see me get in trouble.
This is a reminder. I cut off my parents for supporting Trump.
The thing that makes me the most mad about Trump and his 2 terms in office is the fact that me and my wife and daughter are the only ones in my family that aren't Trump supporters. Don't get me wrong, my parents and my brothers aren't full red hat MAGA weirdos, but it still bothers me that they support him at all. It has gotten to the point that I stopped talking to them months ago, and as much as I still want to connect with them because they're my family, I just can't do it.
Unfortunately, I feel you, and it's been a long time coming. I don't speak to most of my family because my family has very conservative ideals. I kind of got tired of hearing the constant fear-mongering from someone I know to be highly intelligent to allow their fear and anxiety to dictate the way they think about the world. Constantly rallying against the supposed threat of transgender people while utterly rejecting the idea that their own religious institutions are a bigger threat to children. Constantly saying that it's not okay for gay people to marry, as if one religious ideology owns marriage. Marriage existed before Christianity, and it will exist long after it's gone. Constantly in this headspace that men somehow inherently have all the fucking answers and that women should hold no position in power, even though history has dictated over and over again that men are extremely irresponsible with fucking power. And are somehow convinced that the wealthiest 1% of people give any fucks about the lives of day-to-day people who are just struggling to pay bills. I've grown so tired and disdainful from this disconnect that I feel my personal health would benefit from distance. I love my family, but I can't be around my family.
From strained conversations to complete silence, many describe years of conflict that finally reached a breaking point after the 2024 presidential election. These stories reveal the emotional toll of choosing personal boundaries over family ties and the difficult consequences that follow.
I have not seen my MAGA sister in almost 2 years. We had a falling out, obviously, last September 2024 before the election when she found out I was voting for Kamala Harris because I was no longer a Republican. Because after January 6th and Roe versus Wade and me having a special needs son, I was like, I can't support this party anymore. This is not who I am. This is not what I believe in. And she was living at me because I decided to do my own research and no longer deal with this administration. And we did not celebrate Thanksgiving together last year. We did not celebrate Thanksgiving together today, nor Christmases. And I have kids. I have a niece. We haven't spoken. She's my only sister. My parents are like caught up, like so upset about it. My parents split when I was younger, and now we just do separate holidays. And honestly, my mental health for that has been so much better because it's about human rights. Like I don't care. I don't care. I probably will never talk to my sister the same way, or we will never have a relationship until she can fucking see the light, because your nephew, my son, is autistic, and you really, like, you have a daughter. Like, we will never be the same. So I don't know how anybody else's Thanksgiving was today, if they were around family members that are MAGA, or if you guys didn't see those family members because they are MAGA and you chose to distance yourself. I'm proud of you. We have Christmas to get through, and then we're just going to keep on trucking, because I'm not going back until she can see the light and see that her party is disgusting, vile, racist. I don't have anything to say to her.
My mom was probably one of the most liberal, progressive, fighting for the rights of others. We always fight for the lowest dog in a fight. We always take care of the least amongst us. We open our doors for everybody. Everybody's equal. Everybody deserves to be taken care of. We're all in this together. We fight together. Everybody's rights are equal. And today, I told her, I said, this isn't a difference politically, Ma. This is morality. This is the core of who we are as people. You raised me to be an ethical, loving, understanding person, to fight for the rights, to fight for the weakest dog in a fight, to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Whether they're BIPOC, whether they're LGBTQ, whether they're black, whether they're women, it doesn't matter to me. I fight for those who can't fight for themselves. And I fight for those communities that need that fight. And I can't have this toxicity anymore. So I disconnected from my mother. And I had to. Because I can't fight her anymore. I have more important things to fight for now. I have more important things to fight now. I'm sad. I'm depressed. But I'm relieved.
The sad thing about my parents is they didn't always used to be that way. I grew up in the 90s, and my house in middle school and high school was a safe place for my friends. I had a lot of queer friends. I had friends that didn't have good situations at home, and they were always welcome at our house. My mom, being Filipina, of course, always made sure that everybody was fed, but they would let my friends stay as long as they wanted. And my parents were actually really popular with my friends, especially my dad, because he would talk to them and get to know them as a person, which apparently was very revolutionary back in the 90s. Things started to change when Rush Limbaugh got on the air with his radio station. And my dad started listening to him pretty religiously. And then Fox News came on the air, and that was all my parents watched. Even still to this day, my mom only watches Fox News. Seeing how their personalities changed, it was like they became different people. Really fearful, hateful, bigoted, and just so closed off from any other opinions other than what was being fed to them. Like I said a couple videos back, people that follow MAGA don't question authority. And that was 100% them.
I'm completely fascinated by this whole discussion that's going on right now, especially on TikTok, about people who are cutting off family members and friends who voted for Trump in this election. First off, let's talk about the misuse of the quote, blood is thicker than water. Big time manipulation tactic, and it's misused. The quote, I believe, actually goes, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which is actually the opposite of what people are using it for. And yes, it's 100% a guilt tactic, a manipulation tactic to use against somebody. Well, I'm family, therefore you need to give me your attention. You are not under any obligation to give somebody your attention or your time because they're family. That's not that's not a card they can whip out and say, hey, family, I need your time right now. No. That's not how it works.
Has anyone else like completely cut off their MAGA family this Christmas? Like, I don't even care to see them this Christmas. And I know my mom is like so messed up over it. I'm like, cry your MAGA tear.
So reason number 675 that I hate Donald Trump and what's happening in this country, lost of family members through this cult. How many of you have lost family members through this cult? Just, it's sad because they're old. And now I am here grieving the loss of people who are alive, and it sucks. So if you're like me and you're in this place, that you've actually lost family members, you know, I think it sucks. And I'm sorry for you, and I'm sorry for me.
I don't know what to do with them, which is why I just choose not to interact with mine. But there are two things that I do know for sure. The one is that you should not accept abuse from anyone. And if someone can't respect a small boundary of yours, they are not going to respect a larger one. I think right now we are sort of tightening our belts on the idea of being comfortable, and it's no longer about doing the thing that makes us most comfortable. It's about choosing which discomfort we'd rather live with. One of those things where there is not a right decision. And sometimes when I'm confronted with these scenarios, the way to put it into perspective for myself is to like look for the things that I'm grateful for. When it comes to these topics, which keep me up at night, my own personal relationships with my parents and talking about them on the internet, that keeps me up at night. But I am so grateful that that's what keeps me up at night. These are the decisions I have to make, not whether or not I'm going to flee the country, not whether or not my kids are going to come home and have parents tomorrow because of the color of their skin. And when I think about it that way, cutting out the people who supported creating the environment for that to be the case becomes a lot easier. And honestly, as a white person, for me personally, it's the absolute least I could do.
You left. I didn't. If you still proudly wear that red hat, you have to understand that you are part of the reason so many people walked away. But if you've begun to see the harm, the division, and the pain that came from what that symbol represents, then maybe, just maybe, there is room to rebuild what was lost. The responsibility to make that right lies with you. So many people have been deeply hurt by what they saw from those who wore that hat. That hat has come to symbolize hate, division, judgment, cruelty, lack of empathy, ignorance, and supremacy. And here's the part you cannot ignore. You voted and still support a man who is actively destroying the future for my sons and future generations. You voted and still support a man who dehumanizes the very people who make this country great. Immigrants, including the families of many of our own friends, are the backbone of this nation. Their work and their diversity are the reason this country thrives. You voted and still support a man who talks about my gay, lesbian, and trans friends as if they are worthless and undeserving of basic human rights. You voted and still support a man who demeaned me and my family, calling people like us terrorists simply for being anti-fascist and pro-democracy. You voted and still support a man who protects only himself and the wealthy at the expense of everyone else. You voted and still support a man who is a known predator, even knowing that I am a survivor myself. You only knew about some of my trauma, the assault at 12 by a 50-year-old neighbor, the grape at 15. You never knew about the time when I was a runaway, that I was raped by 3 men in a hotel room. I have never said that out loud until now, but now you know. You voted for a man who has no respect for women and is pushing policies that endanger women's lives, forcing pregnancies regardless of the circumstances or the suffering that will follow. You voted and still support a man who openly prioritizes foreign dictators over American families. You voted and still support a man who backed policies and funding that contributed to humanitarian crisis and mass suffering. You voted and still support a man who lies constantly, and you continue to repeat those lies while refusing to take the blinders off. You voted and still support a man who tried to starve Americans of resources and benefits to get his way politically. You voted and still support a man whose policies have gutted essential programs, attacked healthcare access, and made life more unaffordable for working families, all so he can protect the wealthy and the powerful. You are a danger to me and my family because your vote wasn't just political. It was personal. It told me exactly where you stand in your priorities. It is hard not to think that if you were alive during the Holocaust, you would have turned in Anne Frank, and that you would do the same today. You cannot simply sit back and pretend you played no part in why people distanced themselves. If you feel regret, own it. Speak out. Take responsibility. Work to prepare what you helped break. If you don't, then accept the distance as the consequences of your choices. You chose cruelty and ignorance over kindness and truth, and that choice has consequences.
The stories you've heard today show that political division doesn't just shape opinions, it reshapes families. For many, cutting ties wasn't about politics alone, but about protecting mental health, personal values, and emotional well-being. These decisions are painful, complicated, and deeply personal. Understanding these experiences helps explain why so many Americans say the divide feels impossible to ignore. If these stories resonated with you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share to help keep this conversation going. And click the video on your screen to hear more real stories from people navigating life in a deeply divided America.
When it comes down to it, it's perfectly valid for people to cut you off based off of your beliefs, because that is part of your judgment. That is whether or not people can trust you. That is whether or not you have integrity. It's part of the reason why people don't talk about politics. It's because it shows who you really are behind closed doors.
Across the country, friendships are dissolving as political tensions reach a breaking point. Today, you'll hear real stories from people explaining why they've chosen to distance themselves from their Trump-voting, MAGA-aligned friends. Listen closely. These voices reveal the emotional strain behind a growing divide.
We're not divided because of different opinions. We're divided because some people believe that other lives are worth less than theirs. That's not politics. That's morality, dude.
I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this, but I'm unfriending this time around. Last time, I let you have a little pass. Okay, I thought, okay, maybe they just don't know that much, back then. But now, I'm tired of you. I've been going to their page, hitting the unfriend button, and I feel at peace. I don't want anybody watching shit that I do in my life, watching my kids, watching where we're going, that had anything to do with that man.
I just found out one of my best friends, who I've known since high school, voted for Trump. And all I gotta say is thanks for showing your true colors. Thanks for showing me who you really are. Because for the past 15 years, I thought you were a friend. But now I know you're not.
So I just have a quick question for people who have cut off friends or family members because of their support of Donald Trump and his politics. What was your last straw? What was the thing that broke the camel's back that made you not talk to them anymore?
I texted my best friend of 14 years. Literally half of my life. I'm 28. And I asked them who they voted for. They said Donald Trump. And they said, I'm assuming you voted the opposite. And I said, yes. And then my friend texted me and said, will you still be my friend? Half of my life, this person is my best friend.
So my old Trump supporter friend, who I cut off after the election, decided to give me a call and confess to me that he fucked up voting for Donald Trump. So he called me like, yeah, you was right, man. You was right. All this shit that's going on, I don't like what's going on. I just really wanted overtime. That's what he telling me. I just really wanted no tax on overtime because I do a lot of overtime. And he was just explaining about all the shit he don't like and what he doing, the Epstein files and all that. So I tell him this, man. I say all this shit that's going on with the American people, the ICE, deportations, the custom Medicaid, the taking away people's rights, evading cities like he's some dictator. All that's happening because you voted for that. You voted for that. I practically begged him, y'all. I begged him not to vote for Donald Trump. But he was so much ready to get no tax on overtime that he was willing to look past everything that's around his own community. So he calling me like we cool again or something. But I had to tell him the truth. I do not mess with black Trump supporters at all. Never again in my life. If I find out you voted for Trump, I will never be around you in my life. That's just how it's going to be for the rest of my life. Black Trump supporters are the scariest, untrustworthy people in the black community.
I want to make this abundantly clear. If you voted for Trump, do not ever speak to me ever again. You actively voting against my rights and against the rights of my loved ones, you are not my friend and you are not my family. Do not speak to me ever again. I am so sick and tired of people posting today, friendships and families shouldn't be torn apart over politics. This is not about politics anymore. This is about human rights. Women's rights, LGBT rights, even interracial rights. I'm scared that my interracial marriage is going to be annulled. That is something I'm afraid of. I have gay friends that are married and they're afraid that their marriages are going to be annulled. And I have gay friends that were supposed to be getting married here pretty soon and now they're scared that they're not going to be able to anymore. So if you voted for that orange dictator, once again, stay the hell away from me. Stay the hell away from my family. I don't know you and you don't know me anymore.
Because this is not the difference between liking two different football teams. This is the difference between life and death for some. This is the difference between tearing families apart. This is the difference between aligning yourself with white supremacists.
Hey everyone. So I'm just here to help anyone out who doesn't understand why how you voted in the election is strictly a difference of opinion that we can all just go on with. So a difference of opinion is you like coffee and I like tea. Maybe you can't stand tea. I know I don't like coffee, but that's okay. Like, drink your coffee. I'm totally cool with it. And you're totally cool with me drinking tea. I'm not forcing it on you. When you vote to outlaw tea and punish tea drinkers, that's no longer opinion. You've acted on that opinion to put yourself above tea drinkers. And now, because I'm a tea drinker, my life's in danger. Because I could be punished just for liking tea. So that's not a difference of opinion. You've made an action. You've made an action that's endangered my life and the lives of so many other people. So it's not a difference of opinion. You've made an action. And the consequence is that there's some people who are not going to be friends with you anymore. And there's some people who aren't going to have a relationship with you anymore. And the reason for that is because we don't trust you.
I've been unfriending people on social media right and left after finding out they're Trump supporters. And I know that sounds harsh. I know you shouldn't lose friends over politics. But the truth is, this election is about more than just politics to me. It's a question of my ability to survive in this country with dignity as a human being.
Are some of your MAGA friends and family trying to come back in your life? Because that's happening to me. It's happening to me. So I just received a message from one of my friends that I had to unfriend back in October. Because every time I would post something, he would write the most craziest shit on my post. And you could tell that he went down that red pill pipeline. Anyway, I haven't spoken to him since October. And all of a sudden, I get a message from him. Now, I don't know if he has Trump or regret. However, let's read the message together. I think it's kind of telling. Now, he said, I understand why you blocked me, but it's because you were a crazed Camilla fangirl. First of all, it's not Camilla. It's Kamala. Kamala. Then he said, not regretting wanting Trump to succeed. What does that mean? Not regretting wanting Trump to succeed. Don't like what's happening in Palestine, but we both know what's going on with that. Let me know if I am more balanced in my politics, and maybe I'll accept you back in my circle. Now, I blocked you. I blocked you. And now you're saying that maybe you'll accept me? Oh, hell no. And this is my answer. You voted for Trump and you still act like you have no regrets, because I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to make any assumption that he regrets now. Meanwhile, this country is becoming a dictatorship. There is no room for conversation. Punto.
You may think it's childish, immature, and petty to cut people off who voted for this administration, and that's A-OK. Whether you are friends, family, coworkers, acquaintance, whether you're in a friendship, relationship, whatever the fuck ship, if you support this administration in any way, bye-bye. We're done. We're done with the sheer stupidity that you guys breathe and ooze on a daily goddamn basis. The fact that you guys cannot open up a goddamn book, read between the lines, and tell when this administration is lying to you, whether you're a supporter or a non-supporter. Bye fucking bye.
This has just been on my mind so heavy. So heavy. Who a part of your family or a part of your circle is a Trump supporter or doesn't too much not hate him, if that makes sense? Like, they see no issue with him. There is no problem with him. He's a great businessman. Does anybody get that from relatives or friends or people who share that opinion? Please come to the front because I want to talk. I have a chat. I want to... Please. Thanks.
From years of quiet disagreements to explosive turning points, many describe how political clashes have reshaped trust, communication, and the sense of safety within their friendships. Their stories shine a light on how complicated and painful these decisions can be.
I had quite a few people asking for a story time on my old best friend that I dropped because she was a Trumpy, and a lot of people were slandering me for it. So let me just tell y'all kind of what happened. And let me just start by saying I'm not at all sorry for dropping her. This is not me trying to justify me dropping her. I am fully comfortable with my decision. I don't feel bad at all. And I just want y'all to picture this from a standpoint of her not even being my friend, her not owing me any loyalty. Just think of this. I was telling her about how my mom and I and our family might lose the place that we're living in because we can't afford it. Meaning we'd be homeless, yeah. Yeah, meaning we'd be homeless. She was my best friend at the time. So obviously I was addressing my concerns with her because, I was expecting not to be judged because for 5 years up until this point, we've never judged each other for our political standpoints. Then when I start telling her this story about my mom and my situation, this is crazy. She goes, whatever. It's only going to be bad for a little bit. She also says, I don't know why you're so mad about Trump's policies. They're not going to personally affect you. What? What? So what I'm hearing from this is if it doesn't affect you, you don't care. What I'm hearing from this is despite our relationship at the moment, despite us being friends, you are looking at a disabled person with cancer who has children who is about to lose their house, and you're saying whatever. At that point, you're done. You're done.
You see, I can respect different political views. I can respect difference in policy. I can respect Republican presidents or the Republican Party, but that man does not embody any Republican values, conservative values. And if you come and sit here and try to tell me that it's for the economy, baby, that means that your values can be bought and mine cannot.
So I need some advice. So one of my best friends, we've been best friends for like 9, 8 years. Every time she hangs out with a certain person, like she becomes like a big Trumpy. I mean, she already is. And when she does hang out with this person, she like posts like stuff and like her Trump hat and everything. And it really makes me very uncomfortable, but it's like, I love her as a person and it's so hard. I don't know, y'all. Like, part of me wants to cut her off because, like, she doesn't really benefit my life that all. But it's like, she also is an amazing friend. But, like, when I see pictures of her in, like, her MAGA hat makes me so uncomfortable. Like, what do you guys think I should do? Please let me know.
How could somebody possibly sever a tie with a family member or a friend over who they voted for? And this question, I guess, keeps getting asked by people who have been cut off by family members or cut off by friends, and they don't understand it. And they seem to think that it's a very trivial thing, and it really isn't. I mean, it is simple. It is a question of, it's not a question of I like vanilla versus you like chocolate. It is a question of morality. You voted for somebody who is going out of their way to take rights away from people.
You should cut off your friends and family if they're hateful pieces of shit. Fuck them. They don't deserve you. They have no right to you. The reason these people like the MAGA movement is because they like being hateful and they like feeling like the bully. It doesn't make their lives better. Being a part of the MAGA movement does not materially improve their situation. It doesn't bring more food onto the table. It doesn't lower the cost of their car repair bill. It worsens their lives in many ways. They lose contact with friends and family, but they're energized by the cult and by hatred. You simply have to make the outward pressure greater than the desire on their end to continue being that thing. They need to be shamed out of it. So if you constantly capitulate and build bridges and reach out to these people, you're doing the exact opposite.
I'm going to put something into perspective for MAGA Republicans, so I'm going to need you to listen up, okay? This is for the MAGA Republicans who think it's ridiculous or sensitive that people are unfollowing people and blocking people and cutting off communication with people when they find out they voted for Donald Trump, okay? Here is the equivalent. Let's say Kamala Harris ran her campaign on many hateful things, but one of the most number one hateful things is that she wanted to ban Christianity. And even if she couldn't get a federal ban on it, she was very much against it as a candidate. She thought that the Bibles should be a banned book, and she rallied against people who burned Bibles and ripped them down and openly mocked Jesus. Like, that's what she loved and supported as a main goal of her campaign. Would you feel safe around me or like me as a person if you were a Christian and I voted for that woman and I was proud of that? And then I came to you and I said, well, you know, I can still be friends with you. I just don't like your beliefs. Then you would turn to me and say, you're actively voting for somebody who's trying to take away my right to believe in those things. See, it's all about a perspective, but MAGA Republicans just won't even put themselves in anybody else's shoes. The main difference between Democrats and Republicans in today's day and age is that Democrats want the freedom to do what they want, and Republicans want to take away that freedom from the Democrats. You don't have to get an abortion. You don't have to have same-sex marriage in your personal life. You don't even have to be friends with gay people. You don't have to associate with a single transgender person in your entire life. And I guarantee a lot of you MAGA Republicans actually have never met one. You can give to your church without your church having to give taxes to the big evil federal government that then supports things that you don't believe in. You can give that money freely. You don't have to do any of the things that you don't want to do. You can homeschool your kids, put them in private school. You don't have to put them in public school. You don't have to teach them about evolution. You can teach them the creation story and that dinosaurs are fake until they're blue in the fucking face. But you are actively trying to take away my right to participate and do all of those things.
Would you throw away years of friendship because you found out your friend was a Trump supporter? So one of my friends, who's indigenous, found out that one of her friends is a Trump supporter. They've been friends about 6 or 7 years, and it just never came up in conversation. I think it could be because they might have just assumed the other one had the same belief system, you know, and it just didn't come up. Well, it came up today. So my friend said something about being upset about how Trump's administration wants to basically rewrite history and get rid of things in the African American community, in the indigenous Native community, the Mexican American community, just all of it. And then the other person went in. So my friend feels completely betrayed. She's like, how could you possibly? So she's confused. She's like, how could I have a friend who feels this way about people who look like me? So that is what she's going through. So what would you do?
So today I basically cut ties with someone who was a more than an acquaintance. You know, we've hung out with him outside of the situation where we normally see him a couple times a week. I hadn't realized until recently that I've had this person blocked on Facebook for years. Because I looked for him on Facebook a while back to try to send him a friend request and I could never find him. And then I finally looked at my blocked list recently. I'm like, oh, okay. And then it kind of all came back to me, how I knew him previous to our current situation. Well, I unblocked him to maybe give him the benefit of the doubt, but he has not changed. He is still just mega trash, basically, which is hilarious because he's married to a minority and, you know, basically voted against all of their rights and their child's rights and all of that. But the opportunity finally presented itself where he called me out for something on a local Facebook group, and I just kind of let it go. And he's like, well, I'm still going to be nice to you because I like you. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not. I don't like you. I don't like what you stand for. I don't like, how you think it's okay to treat people based on, their color, their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, their immigration status, whatever. It kills me. But I guess, now we move on and it's fine, but it is really hard to kind of give up a friendship sometimes. But, your integrity matters far more, and we'll be better off. We'll be better off without him in our life.
For people crying about why anti-Trump people are cutting Trump people off, saying like, you're what's wrong with the world, it's like, no, that's not factual at all. As a matter of fact, since you were a child, doesn't matter what religion, what part of the world you grew up in, there's one thing that's been taught. It's like a universal lesson, is not to be a bully. The fact that you have to defend why it is that you support Trump, who is a bully, just goes to show that that is not a good person, and you're supporting not a good person. When it comes down to it, it's perfectly valid for people to cut you off based off of your beliefs, because that is part of your judgment. That is whether or not people can trust you. That is whether or not you have integrity. It's part of the reason why people don't talk about politics. It's because it shows who you really are behind closed doors. It's a test of whether you would do the right thing or not. Like right now, if you're on the side of people protesting warming centers in Utah, like, you're in the wrong. You are in the wrong. People who do not want basic needs met for other people just because of whatever personal reason for you, that's ridiculous. You're not a good person if you find joy in other people's struggles. There is this saying, it says, they want you to do good but not better than them. And some of those people that are struggling do not like to see other people not struggling. So if you have like some type of food insecurity and you don't qualify for benefits, you're not going to be happy that somebody else is able to get benefits and get food. But that has nothing to do with them. Those people deserve to eat. Doesn't matter what the heck they're buying with it. When it comes down to it, everybody should be able to have food. That does include you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you don't qualify or you can't like make ends meet or whatever doesn't mean that other people shouldn't. That's very, very selfish. A big part of relationships and friendships is trust. And if you lack integrity, it makes it hard for people to trust you because your judgment is off. The fact that you can't see one wrong, one right, and you can't be like, oh, I don't know which one's right, which one's wrong. It's like, you do know, and you should know. And if you don't, then your judgment is very questionable. So therefore, you are questionable. You are not trustworthy. You do not have the integrity that is required to have relationships with certain types of people. So therefore, no, if just because you're not able to decipher things like that, like good from bad or right from wrong, doesn't mean that someone who shouldn't be able to make the decision not to be your friend. Because when it comes down to it, it's just like, yes, they have every right to. People have every right to cut people off that are not trustworthy and lack integrity.
The experiences shared today reveal just how deeply political division can affect our closest relationships. These stories show that when values shift or collide, friendships can be tested in ways few ever expected. Whether you agree or disagree with their choices, understanding the emotional impact behind these decisions helps us better grasp the reality of what many people are facing. If this video opened your eyes to the human side of these divides, please like, comment, subscribe, and share to keep the conversation going. And click the video on your screen to explore more stories shaping relationships across America today.